Welcome, everybody, to another edition. We made it a week, guys. Hey, welcome to the world's best fantasy show on 1252 Sports Network. And along with me are the brains of this operation, Tyler DaMouse and Tarbill. How are you guys? Good morning.
Morning. Doing well. How about yourself?
Getting crazy. I know you posted up. Get ready for my annual rant. My annual rant is short. Short. I wish they would have taken away every preseason game completely. Preseason football, to me, when you don't have anybody playing, is sort of like masturbation when you don't have a wife or a girlfriend. And I guess it works the other way, too, if you don't have a boyfriend. So whatever the case may be, I get crazy about this. There are so many weeks to go. You already have to start worrying about Justin Jefferson on the Vikings. You have to start worrying about Devontae Smith on the Eagles. You have to worry about Dak Prescott. Is Dak Prescott, why do they get paid so much money?
That's an age-old question I don't think any of us can answer.
I mean, when you see somebody sign, who signed a contract yesterday? Josh Allen's announcement. The QB of the Buffalo Bills, and maybe really the best quarterback in the NFL. If you break down everything, even talking about Mahomes and everything else, I think Allen could be the best. What he signed for $198.5 million?
Yes.
Wouldn't you have sat there during negotiations? This is me. And I'd say, I'll give you guys back $1.5 million, but can we say I just signed for $200 million?
No
to
kidding.
Me, there's a big difference between $200 million and $198 million.
Yeah.
Egotistically wise.
Mm-hmm.
And why they don't do it, I have no idea. All right, let's talk about this. Everybody is in game mode. We're a month away. And is it a month from this past Thursday, the first game?
Let me go pull
so,
that up for you exactly.
Yep, I believe that's correct, yes.
Yeah.
We are a month.
I have a draft. Now, my draft is this coming Friday.
Okay.
And I find that way too early to have a draft.
Mm-hmm.
What about you guys?
Yeah, I agree. The closer to the season that you can get, in my opinion, it's for the better, just because there's so many things going on right now with injuries and the COVID protocol and everything like that. The closer you can get to the season in the world we live in right now, I would say would be for your benefit, just because you don't know who's going to be. We don't know who's going to be active week 1 at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, forgetting about the normal slew of regular gridiron injuries. You have the safety health protocol right now. And then you have the amazing story of one Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
Man, what a mess.
First of all, Kirk Cousins in a 12-man league, definitely in an 8 and 10-man league, in a 12-man league, I don't even think Kirk Cousins is drafted.
No, he's not.
No, I would agree.
Unless everybody, if you do, and Tyler, I'd love you to focus on what you were talking about in the pregame matchup with me and Tarbill, is as a commissioner, should we add more rounds for draftability, so to speak, to protect against you waking up on a Sunday morning and not having a guy playing, because no longer is it an injury report.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure they're getting tested before game day.
Yeah.
And you wake up on Sunday, you had the best team on paper, and your running back isn't playing because he's got COVID.
So what I did last year in all my leagues is I doubled our IR spots, and so I took all that away this year. But then with COVID running rampant again, it's something that needs to be discussed with everybody's leagues before the season starts up, how you guys are going to tackle COVID this year. Are you going to add extra IR spots? Are you going to add extra bench spots? It's up to each individual league, but I think something needs to be done in case it gets out of hand again.
I agree. It is not an injury type of situation where when you go to bed on Saturday night or on Wednesday night, if you got a Thursday night game, you know your guy is questionable or probable or whatever from injuries. But this COVID thing can happen day of. Actually, from what I've heard, it can happen game day itself. A player can be in the first quarter and taken out when the tests come back.
Yeah.
I mean,
we've seen that happen in baseball. Hell, we watched it happen in the World Series last year. Justin Turner got back a positive COVID test in the middle of the World Series.
Yeah.
And then he came out for the picture.
Yeah, he came out for the celebration
right
afterwards.
next to a cancer survivor, his manager.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, this is so crazy. You guys will see it. I'll probably be dead by then. But Netflix is going to have a great, great movie one day about all this COVID stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And it's so dynamic.
And it's going, as Tyler said, everything you read. Hawaii, where I know so many people thought, okay, it's over, done, go on vacation to Hawaii. Hawaii right now, I read this morning, the highest cases ever, even before the pandemic. And since the first pandemic, and what is this called? Wave 4?
Yeah, I think this is the 4th wave now.
I've lost track at this point, guys. Just when you think this is going away and going to the wayside, it pops back up. And unfortunately, with this new Delta variant, things are going in the wrong direction. So.
And I think what Tyler talked about, I think we should try to put something up, or maybe do something, and somebody should try. What's the solution? 3 extra rounds, Tyler? A wild card? Doesn't matter who you take, a quarterback, a running back, a wide receiver. That's where Kirk Cousins might get picked.
Yeah, no, I think my solution is I'm just probably going to add extra IR spots. Give people the roster flexibility. You wake up and, hey, your guys got COVID. You just slide them to your IR spot, and you can
see who's available at that time.
Yeah, free reign of the waivers. Then you just make sure you keep your waivers open, not daily waivers on Sundays if you're going to do something like that.
But what about the order of? What if there's 4 really good players, Mahomes, Josh? What if there's really good players? How do you control the order of picking up if somebody slots in if there's more than one guy?
If the waivers are open on Sundays, it's just first come, first serve. Whoever gets there first.
So I'm an early riser, so I'd get the best players.
I mean,
and I'm out here on the West Coast.
Yeah.
Essentially, yes.
I mean, it's not going to be perfect, but I mean, I like daily waivers where the waivers run daily. But with COVID and all that this year, I don't think you can run the daily waivers on Sunday. I think you need to leave it wide open. And if you leave it wide open, that's the only way it's going to be, is just first come, first serve.
Now, for those of us who didn't join us last week, shame on you and welcome aboard. But Tyler's in, I think, 300 fantasy leagues.
I think he's up to 450 now.
Today, how many are you at for fantasy?
So it's actually 11 right now. So last year it was 18, and the year prior it was 19. I'm trying to knock it down a little bit, but yeah, I'm not trying to get back over the 15 mark like I was the last couple of years.
I'm insane right now. So with my draft coming up, and let's talk about prepping for draft.
Yeah.
With the draft coming up, and when's your first draft, Tarbill?
I'm not sure. I believe maybe the last week of August is my first draft.
That's a beautiful thing. And Tyler, you've probably had some drafts already.
Well, I got my my dynasty leagues. We have our teams. We've already done the rookie drafts. We did all those right after the rookie draft. But
what about a regular full roster draft? Have you done one yet?
I have not. My first draft is actually August 20th, so got 12 days.
And it'll be interesting. Where my first draft is this Friday or Thursday. I'd have to look. And who's universal? It used to be in the older day, universal. Is there a universal number 2 after Christian McCaffrey, who is universally going to be number 1? I drafted him last year at number 1. And yes, injury, you can't ever estimate that. But do we agree that universally the number 1 pick in the draft is McCaffrey?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. If that's the case, who's number 2?
So as of right now, ADP across all platforms, Dalvin Cook is the second player off the board.
Tarbill, you agree with that?
I'm a big Alvin Kamara fan, and I know you guys aren't necessarily as high on him this year because
we don't know what the Saints are.
Right,
That's
because of the
problem.
quarterback
We don't know
situation
what
there.
The Saints are, and Jameis Winston is going to be playing for. Let's stop for a second. I'm giving Jameis Winston the job right now.
Yeah.
Do we agree? I don't think they'll use Taysom Hill as a joke and everything else. But I agree. I think that Jameis Winston is the quarterback, and I think he's going to be playing to show off. He's got nothing to lose right now and everything to gain.
Yep.
And I'll tell you what, if we draft, I'm in a 12-man league, I guarantee you, and do you guys agree, Jameis Winston is a top 12 quarterback?
No.
Really?
No. I disagree as well.
I do. I just think people tend to forget, and he sat on a bench and watched one of the all-time greats. I mean, if you look, this guy, what did he have, 30 interceptions that year?
It was 34 and 30 with 5,000 yards.
Right.
Yep.
Put in the 5,000 yards, cut the interceptions from 30 to 15, and you have a top 5 quarterback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that year he finished in the top 5, even with all those interceptions,
Exactly.
just with all the touchdowns he threw.
Exactly.
Right.
Everybody forgot because obviously the interception stood out. Obviously,
Yeah.
30
Right.
interceptions. But at the same vein, he had 5,000 yards.
He's a great fantasy quarterback. It doesn't really translate well into real life football quarterback, but for fantasy,
Okay.
I love
and that's all
Jameis.
we care about.
Yeah,
Unless
that's
it's
all
your
we
home
care
team,
about.
If it's the Packers for Tyler, that's where they all go. But I'm telling you, I am really, really, really. It's a shame that Michael Thomas probably won't play at all. I mean, are the Saints going to bring him in if everything I've just said about Winston is the opposite? And when Michael Thomas comes back and they're saying about mid-year, if they're 0-7 or 1-6, are they really going to play him?
Well, I don't know. Did you see the reports that were coming out the last couple of days that Michael Thomas completely ghosted the Saints front office over 3 months?
But
Really?
why?
So he had a doctor's appointment for his injury, and they determined no surgery was needed. He was supposed to have a follow-up with another doctor to determine that was the case, and he just didn't go to the follow-up, and he didn't return any of their calls for 3 months. They were trying to check in. He just was nowhere to be found.
So that's an even larger red flag.
Yeah, now he needs the surgery, so now the Saints are all pissed off about it. I don't know if you saw Sean Payton's press conference the other day, but he looked a little bit irritated about it.
Well,
just a little bit.
The head coach, everything, crap runs uphill, right? And at the end of the day, shouldn't the coach and the GM of a team know what's going on with your star player? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Didn't months earlier the Saints make Michael Thomas the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL?
I think that was the year prior, and then Hopkins beat him. But yeah, they have a huge investment in him. That's something you need to follow up. If he's not putting out the effort, you have such a big investment in that guy. You need to know what's going on with him. You need to baby him if you need to.
Exactly.
It's funny. It's more dominant and more prominent, in the NBA than it is in the NFL. But these guys, when you listen to talk sports radio, and you listen, it used to always be about winning. They wanted to get their payday, but it used to be about winning. But now it's all about the money, and if we win or not, who cares? Only one team wins and everybody else loses. So might as well get my money and big deal. This guy, did he get a surgery this late so he could have a long-term rest? He's still going to get his money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know where this money crap started from. Okay, to get off. Let's talk about running backs for a second. We had McCaffrey. You didn't hear me say Cook as the number two running back.
That's
off
just
the
the
board.
ADP data as of right now.
Right. Where is Derrick Henry?
Derrick Henry right now, across the board, all platforms, he is the third running back off the board in a half PPR scoring.
Okay.
Tell me I'm crazy. I am in love, and this guy just got a big payday, and I know Kareem Hunt sits on the bench, but I'm in love with Nick Chubb. Watching this guy play for the Browns, I mean, this guy's phenomenal.
Yes, he is.
And I have the 7th pick. If I have Nick Chubb, Zeke Elliott, and David Montgomery to choose from in the 7th pick, who do you guys take?
I'm going to be a little bit of a homer here, and I'm going to say David Montgomery because
I think Montgomery's going to be huge.
He's going to be huge this season. He's got tremendous upside. Absolutely. He's kind of playing with a little bit of a vengeance because he obviously was underutilized the past 2 seasons. One thing that Matt Nagy came out and said was that he is going to target getting the running backs 20 carries per game this coming season. So if that's the case, you got to think Montgomery is going to get more than half of those. And he could be a 100-yard per game guy this coming season if the offense plays right.
Listen, we're going to take a break right now. How's that? Aren't I good, Tarbill?
Perfect timing. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break. You'll hear a word from one of our sponsors, the Jonathan Darren team, and then we'll be back with you in 60 seconds.
They're a really good team, almost as good as our Bears.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Darren, licensed real estate broker with Coldwell Banker Real Estate Group in Homer Glen. Are you looking to buy or sell? Have you been disappointed in the past? The Jonathan Darren team with Coldwell Banker Real Estate Group focuses on providing you with a concierge level of service during the process of buying or selling. We are a service-oriented team with a fresh and professional approach to selling real estate. Our goal is to combine knowledge, skills, and passion to exceed our clients' expectations, and most of all, we truly care. We are a knowledgeable real estate team focused on offering expertise and innovative solutions for our clients. The Jonathan Darren team has 5 full-service real estate brokers and a dedicated full-time marketer servicing all of Chicagoland. We will customize a detailed plan around your timeline for a sale, purchase, investment, estate, or other needs. Real estate transactions can be stressful, but don't need to be. Let us handle it for you. Visit our website, homesbyjdt.com, or call 708-308-1938 today. Expect better in real estate. Choose the Jonathan Darren team.
See, I would sit back and say, unlock your dreams for a new place in Lockport, Illinois. Welcome back to the 52 Sports Network. We're the world's best fantasy show. You know why? Because we said so. We said so. Previously, before the break, we went into it and talking about who would be. This is, and I've been playing fantasy since 1992. This is probably the weirdest year looking at the sheet for running backs. Really, when you get to number 2, you could change. I mean, my rankings have J.K. Dobbins of the Ravens way high. Do you, Tyler?
ADP data right now, J.K. Dobbins is the 15th running back off the board.
You know 15. Who's interesting is the Lions. He came on the second half last year, and that was DeAndre Swift.
Yes.
And, you know, to my knowledge, Jared Goff just a few years ago was in the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
This is correct.
And he knew how to work with running backs, and that was one of my favorites over there. And I think DeAndre Swift could be a steal, not in the first round. And I mean, in my rankings, they have him in the first round in a 12-man league.
Yeah, no, right now, DeAndre Swift is the 18th running back off the board. I like Swift, but they brought in Jamal Williams in the offseason.
Right.
And Jamal Williams coming from the Packers. At the coaching staff, everywhere, they love him.
They love him. And by the way,
he's pro. He's going to get on the field. He's a great receiving back. He's a great pass protecting back. He's going to be on the field. He's going to eat into Swift's playing time. Not a garbage team with that. I don't think it's going to run the ball very much. They're not going to run, or they're not going to win too many games.
No.
I think it's just it's a sunk cost. I don't see him winning many leagues for anybody.
Okay, speaking of winning many leagues, and we really saw a little bit of him Thursday night, but there's no other way for the Steelers to move the ball other than Najee Harris.
Roll Tide.
You got me there. You got me there. I mean, I loved watching the kid in Alabama. And I think this kid, when I'm in the middle of the first round, if I don't take Najee Harris, don't make fun of me. Because, you know, I said it last week, I think you never win on your first pick. I don't know if I want him to be on my team. I love the kid. I mean, because look at the names. If I took him, look at the names I'm passing out. Let me throw out a few. Right after him on my ranking, Tyler, and correct me if I'm wrong, right after him, I've got David Montgomery, who we just talked about, Antonio Gibson, but I don't know about that team, the Washington football team. I almost called them the Redskins. But I don't know about that team. You got Joe Mixon. Can't stay healthy.
Oh, no. Whoa. Put some respect on Joe Mixon's name. So Joe Mixon is probably my favorite running back in the league. If anybody's ever played fantasy with me before, or if you listened last year, I'm a massive Joe Mixon fan. I think this is the year he puts it all together. Last year he had his foot injury. By the time he was healthy, Burrow was already hurt. They were playing for nothing. There's no point to rush him back. He signed a huge contract extension, not this offseason, the previous offseason. He doesn't have Gio Bernard behind him anymore. It's
Finally,
Joe Mixon.
The Vulture.
Yeah, finally. But yeah, you got Joe Mixon, you got Travion Williams right behind him, and who the hell is the other
what
guy?
an offense.
Yeah, he's not coming off the field. The other Samaje Perine and Travion Williams are not going to take Joe
At
Mixon
number 7,
off.
would you take Mixon?
No. So I go by value here. So I'm not going to reach on a guy to where he has to. So if you take him at 7, if he doesn't perform as RB5 or better, it's not a good pick there. So that's why I like waiting on value there. So I'm targeting him in the middle of the second round.
The problem is we've grown up fascinated with wanting to take running backs in the first 2 rounds. That if you don't have a quality running back, your season's lost. Don't forget, we lost Cam Akers, who ADP, I think he had. Where was Cam Akers on your ADP?
Cam Akers was going as the 11th pick in the draft when he was hurt.
So now everybody gets elevated up a slot. Are you going to trust Josh Jacobs on the Raiders? And he's a beautiful running back.
Yeah.
No.
Not with that decimated offensive line.
I mean, are you going to trust for the second year? And he had a good year. 2 guys who had really surprising years last year. Antonio Gibson came out of nowhere, and he was a stud. And Myles Gaskin of Miami. In Miami, it's interesting. Do we have any faith in Miami at all because of Tua, speaking about the Crimson Tide?
I'm not a big Tua fan. I am an Alabama football fan. Right. I wasn't overly pleased with him even being the quarterback at Alabama. He won games, but he reminds me more of a guy like Tim Tebow almost, where he was great in college, but he doesn't have the extra piece to thrive in the NFL. And that's what worries me with Tua, and therefore I'm probably going to stay away from Miami players as much as possible just because it's a big question mark at this point.
You know, everybody last year, the surprise probably of last year, I would say, was James Robinson for the Jaguars. He won a lot of games for the person who picked him up in supplemental because he wasn't drafted.
Yeah.
But on my cheat sheet, and Tyler, is it on yours? The rookie, Travis, how do you pronounce his last name?
ETN, just like the letters ETN.
Okay.
Okay.
They've got him the starter, the Jaguars. I haven't read anything about that. Have you?
So primarily he's been working in like the slot and stuff like that. But if you're in a PPR league, I think he's the running back to target from the Jags. I don't see James Robinson providing any sort of value this year at where he's going right now. Right now, James Robinson's RB22 off the board. He would need to score a ton of touchdowns just to be able to justify spending that on him. I think
And they're going to be playing catch up every single game.
That's why I like
throw.
ETN. That's why I like ETN. Bring him out of the slot, put him in the backfield on third down.
Hey, somebody just put up there, Alan, thank you. A lot like, how is Cohen for the Bears? How's he feeling? Isn't he hurt too?
I think he's still on the PUP from his ACL tear.
Yeah, when I was at Bears camp last week, he was doing some exercises and he was out on the field, but he was on the sideline. He wasn't playing in any of the live drills or anything like that. But I'm not a big Tariq Cohen fan. I always call him Mr. East-West. He tends to run east and west for 6 yards and then only advances 1 yard upfield. So not a big Tariq Cohen fan. I would stay away from him personally, even if he was healthy.
You know, I really thought when we talked earlier this morning that you needed notes for what we're going to talk about today, and talking about the running backs today, getting you primed for your fantasy drafts. Hilaire of the Chiefs, he's ranked really low on mine, and it surprises me because I love the guy and he performed well, and he doesn't have Le'Veon Bell behind him anymore. That everybody wanted Le'Veon Bell to. Why did everybody want Le'Veon Bell to succeed? Just to have another quality running back? Guy hasn't been a good running back for 3-4 years.
Yeah, it's just people living back on the Pittsburgh Steelers days when he was the best running back in the league and winning people championships every year.
And then he went ahead and thought he was sort of like, if anybody follows the NBA, he's sort of like the Schroeder character that turned down an $84 million contract with his current team, the Lakers, and now he'll end up getting a 1 year exception for a couple of million. I mean, how stupid can people be? But whatever the case may be, who are some of your sleeper running backs that you guys are thinking about?
So we had discussed a couple seconds ago Myles Gaskin. I like Myles Gaskin. Right now he's 21st running back off the board.
And I think he's got 18th.
Yeah, I think he's got a safe floor. And, I mean, last year he produced when he was healthy. Savon Ahmed, he's the backup. When Gaskin was hurt, Ahmed came out there and performed. I think it's a nice offense for the running backs to put up some nice fantasy numbers for you. And you're not spending a whole lot. He's going in the 5th, 6th round on average. I mean, I think he's a nice solid RB2 or a RB3 you can plug and play in your flex spot.
Okay. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Tarbill.
No, go ahead.
You know, for a team that is talked about potentially Super Bowl, and that's the Bills.
Mm-hmm.
They've got their wide receivers, their quarterbacks all set, but the running game is a little amiss, be it Devin Singletary. He's never played like the hype that was around him. And neither did Zach Moss. And I mean, I have Moss ranked ahead of Singletary, even though Singletary, on everything I see, is still listed as the starter for the Bills.
So reports out of
Moss 5 spots ahead of Singletary.
The reports out of Buffalo is Zach Moss has looked like the better running back so far in preseason or in training camp.
Interesting. Who's the running back for the great New York Jets?
Michael Carter. I like Michael Carter. I think because right now the starter is Tevin Coleman. We all know what Tevin Coleman is. He's not very good anymore. He was great when he was in the RB or running back by committee in Atlanta with Devontae Freeman, but he's over the hill now. I like Michael Carter to probably take the job within a couple weeks from him and just keep it going.
Is Frank Gore still a member of that team?
Frank Gore, I don't think is signed by anybody. I can verify
Is
that
that
right
an
now.
amazing stat? I don't know anybody in all the past years that ever took Frank Gore. Maybe they brought him in on a supplemental draft, but never at the draft.
Mhm.
And what is he? The fifth leading rusher of all time in the NFL?
I
Yep.
believe he's fourth.
Four yards at a time for the last 30 years will do that for you.
Right.
Let's go to Tyler's favorite team, the Green Bay Packers. Jones, or is it going to be the year of A.J. Dillon?
So I like both. Aaron Jones, I think with the departure of Jamal Williams, I think it benefits him in the passing game because Jamal Williams, the coaches loved him. He's great at pass protection. He's great at catching the ball. So he was on the field a lot on third downs, but with him gone, you're not going to bring A.J. Dillon on third down. I think A.J. Dillon's more of a goal line back. He's probably going to vulture a couple touchdowns, but I think the receiving production from Aaron Jones is going to keep him as a top 10 running back this year.
All right. Speaking of production, it'll be interesting to see what happens with the prohibitive favorite, I guess you could call them, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for the Super Bowl. Is it Rojo? Who's their running back?
I don't think it matters.
Yeah.
See, I do.
I don't think they're going to have a large emphasis on running the ball. I mean,
I think they're going to. I think you've got to preserve Brady's arm a little bit. He's getting older. It's everything the Lakers try to do with LeBron James. Let him, less is more. I think you'll see Brady have a low throwing year versus what he has done. We know the guy is great, but you can't beat Father Time sometimes. And I think they're going to run. Look at the Super Bowl. Look at the playoff run last year with what's his name that came from the Jaguars.
Playoff Lenny?
Fournette.
playoff
Fournette.
But no, in the offseason, the Bucks also brought in Gio Bernard. I could see him siphoning the third down work. And if you're in a PPR league, that's where a lot of the production is going to come from. If you got Ronald Jones or Leonard Fournette just rushing 10 times a game and maybe catching a pass or two, or just a pass, I don't think that's going to translate very well into fantasy production.
You know, it's funny. I was focusing on that we talked yesterday about running backs this year. I'm looking at the running back sheets right now. You better get running backs early because there is no depth this coming season at running backs.
So I've been running through a ton of mocks, and my favorite teams are where I go running back the first 2 rounds, and then I fill out the rest of my roster after that. That is when I'm most content with my rosters. I mean, obviously each draft is different, but I like getting my running backs early this year because after you get to about 15, there's a massive drop-off.
Now I'm going to bring up what we talked about pre-show, Tyler. You said at number 7, which was interesting, and we'll focus on later in the season, maybe next week or the week after, about tight ends and go K-Met. But the bottom line is, you told me Travis Kelce at number 7. And I told you I have to have a running back at 7.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to pass up on Kelce though, because
but it's hard to pass up on a running back because when you get into the 3rd round. You might have a tight end. You're not going to get a Kelce. You're not going to get, but you might be in the 3rd or 4th round. K-Met might be the 3rd best tight end this year, or 4th best.
I wouldn't be so sure about that. You still got Jimmy Graham out there, Jimmy Grandpa.
Isn't Jimmy causing some problems too?
I would think Jimmy Graham's going to be used mostly in the red zone. They're going to use him as a blocking tight end a good majority of the time. I think Komet is going to have a breakout year. I would say he's going to be a sleeper at tight end for sure. Anybody that picks him up, he's going to perform well.
Could I ask you a question about that?
Yeah.
Where is Komet's fantasy numbers coming from then if Jimmy Graham is being utilized in the red zone and taking all the red zone targets.
He's
You're
gonna
not going to get much production from 4 catches, 50 yards. I mean, that's a nice little baseline in a PPR league, but it's not going to really win you any weeks.
I would say that the red zone targets, yes, Jimmy Graham is going to get probably, I would say, a 60-40 split on that. But I think Komet shows the upside of getting that 20-yard reception to run into the end zone and score. I was a big fan of him when he was playing in college, and if he can duplicate any of the college success that he had this year in the NFL, I think you can get at least, I would say, a touchdown a game out of him.
Really?
Ooh.
Yeah, that's
I'm gonna go bold. I'm gonna go bold.
Lead the league in touchdowns.
But at the end of the day,
Not quite lead.
who's his quarterback?
I don't think it matters if it's Justin Fields or Andy Dalton. Matt Nagy's offense is kind of geared, as we all know, to the Kansas City style. And you see what they do, obviously, with the weapons that they have. Don't get me wrong. I don't think Komet's going to, I shouldn't say a touchdown a game, maybe
Every
10 touchdowns this year. Yeah. Let's say 10 touchdowns this year. But I think the kid's going to really have a large emphasis in this offense, regardless of who's at quarterback, because he's a big target. He's got good hands. He really started to show a lot of positive upside there towards the end of the season last year. And I like the guy. I think he's going to do well.
Well, I hope so. And everything else. Hey, let's take another break right here in the World's Best Fantasy Show. DaMouse, Tyler, Tarbill, me, I'm Space. And we'll be back for talking about some other stuff in the world of fantasy. And we'll be right back.
Hello, this is Paul from Nick and Ivy Brewing Company. We are located at 1026 South State Street in historic downtown Lockport, Illinois. We are very excited to be partnering up with the Fat Mike Chicago Sports Show, as well as the 1252 brand, because we are one of the few Chicagoland breweries that embrace sports and sports culture. Come in for a fresh brewed beer made right here in Lockport while catching the game of your favorite team. Stay for the live music that we have booked every weekend, or just come for a cozy atmosphere to enjoy a good conversation with a friend, loved one, or complete stranger. Nick and Ivy makes you feel right at home no matter what the occasion is. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook by searching for Nick and Ivy Brewing Company. Visit our website for our up-to-date tap list, or to go shopping on our online store at nickivybrewing.com. That's NIKIVY brewing.com. Come in today for a fresh brewed beer born and raised in Lockport, Illinois.
Guys, when I come in September, I'll pay for the bill. I'll charge Fat Mike, but we got to go to Nick and Ivy. I got to have.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Sweet.
Yeah, we will be there with you.
I'm ready for that. I mean, wrapping up the running backs, and I agree with you. And I'm telling everybody who's listening, your first 2 picks should be a running back, because if you look at the depth, I know there's going to be surprises. And everything else, and you're going to see rookies, because some teams have really bad starting running backs, and we can start with the Houston Texans about that with David Johnson. You know, they really have, and right now the Bills, a Super Bowl contender, have really 2 backup running backs as their starters, maybe. I mean, you can't call Moss or Singletary quality, can you?
No.
I mean, the Jets with Michael Carter, but the Broncos have Javonte Williams.
I like Javonte Williams. They also have Melvin Gordon, too.
I hate Melvin Gordon probably more than any running back I've ever hated. I don't know why. I hated him here with San Diego. I just hate Melvin Gordon. I wish he'd shut up and go away. Sometimes I just hate people. And
you might get your wish.
By the way, I have no idea why I hate him, but he's never been on my team, and he's never going to be. Tarbill, what's the name of your fantasy team? Do you have a name?
I have not named my teams for my league yet. I'm just with the default name at this point. But
okay, Tyler.
So my team names are always based off of like who I draft. So
Really?
like so I have like I have a couple fantasy team or dynasty teams that have Aaron Rodgers on it. One of them's like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood and stuff like
Okay.
that. Like when I would draft Le'Veon Bell back in the day, it'd be like Le'Veon a prayer, stuff like that. Christian
Get it for
McCaffrey,
all
if I
those
got.
who didn't get it because it's early, gets a takeoff of Bon Jovi living on the prayer. Go ahead.
But yeah, like I got Christian McCaffrey, it'd be Run CMC instead of Run DMC.
If I had
Christian
Christian
just stuff
McCaffrey,
like
I'd
that.
name it after his wife or girlfriend. What's her name? Olivia Culpa?
I don't
Anybody
know.
who hasn't seen her, and I think everybody has, go look at her. And Christian McCaffrey, whoa, bless him. My team name, of course, should be the Bulldogs because I have had 3 Bulldogs, but my team is the LA Stoners. See, if I had my flag behind me like Tarbill, they would all be marijuana leaves instead of the stars. Instead of the stars. You know what? Since the tight end. Wait, let me ask you another question. I'm looking at here first. Who's the starter for the 49ers? Is it Mostert?
In the backfield? Yeah, I think Mostert, but look
Well,
out for
he's
Trey.
explosive when he gets a chance.
He can't stay healthy though.
No.
I look out for Trey Sermon to siphon some work off as the season goes, and if Mostert goes down at all, I think Trey Sermon could probably take over the number 1 job. I mean, it's still a Shanahan offense. You're still going to have numerous running backs working in there. He's going to play 3 or 4 running backs a game in the backfield. But, I mean, time and time again, we've seen that the main guy is always fantasy viable.
Yep, that's right. For sure. It used to be when they, and I always loved Duckland for the Chargers. And, who knows what he does. I've got Miles Sanders ranked way too high in my stuff for the Eagles. Mm-hmm. And I know you love Hurts. Do you love Miles Sanders? Talk about a guy who always gets hurt.
Yeah, no, I'm not a big Miles Sanders fan this year. I don't think that team's very good. My liking of Hurts is just based on his rushing ability, and just as from a quarterback that has a rushing ability like that, it's a cheat code in fantasy football. But yeah, Miles Sanders, I'm kind of avoiding him this year. I own him in a couple dynasty leagues, and I'm not too excited about this year, but I just don't think he's going to get the full workload. We've seen it 2 years now. I don't think he can handle the full workload, which is why they brought in who did they draft this offseason?
Philadelphia?
Kenneth Gainwell. They drafted Kenneth Gainwell. They still got Boston Scott. I think they're going to take the receiving role away from him.
We haven't talked about a high-ranked guy. We did talk off the air about it, and I think we need to talk about Barkley a little bit of the Giants. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was a universal number 1 pick a couple of years ago. And then last year, obviously, in the first game, nothing worse than that, to see your guy go down in the first game, unless he goes down in the first game and you're playing that guy who has him. Then you go, be out for the game, but not for the year. Mm-hmm. If he's not ready, that really screws up this running back draft for everybody.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, because you're taking a flyer on Zeke Elliott. Everybody says he's in great shape and everything else, but you do see the running backs break down. And is Zeke Elliott and Saquon Barkley going to take their slots as what they're used to as the number 1 and 2 running back? I mean, if Prescott stays healthy and if Zeke stays healthy, and if is a big word and I hate it, but I'll tell you, the 2 of them could be right up there this time next year talking about them in the same breath as we're talking about Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, no, Zeke, I'm a big fan of Zeke this year. All the reports out of there, he looks great. I think just last year he just threw in the towel. Dak got hurt. The team sucked. The offensive line was injured. I just think he threw in the towel. I mean, there was nothing really to play for. They weren't really going to make the playoffs, and if they did make the playoffs, they were going to get spanked.
And you have to worry about Zeke if he goes to a party the night before.
Yeah,
that's true. It seems like I'd like to have Zeke out there when we go to Nick and Ivy and bring him there and lose him up there. Hey, for the last couple of minutes of the show today, let's move on from the running backs. because we talked about Travis Kelce. Let's talk about a little bit of the tight ends situations,
Okay.
because we all need one tight end. You really need two, but you're not going to get it no longer in 12-man leagues. If I look at it, the number 7 ranked tight end for me is the Eagles' Dallas Goedert.
Yeah.
Who's the crowd tight end that wants to leave the Eagles really bad?
Zach Ertz.
Yeah. Do you think he's going to?
Reports were that he might possibly start the year in Philadelphia, and if that's the case, then I think that knocks Dallas Goedert down a little bit. I mean, I still like Dallas Goedert in like a PPR league. It's a nice little safety valve for Hurts, but if Ertz is still there, it gets
Now,
a little
this is
dicey.
interesting. I don't know how your rankings show, Tyler. Obviously, every ranking in the world, if you were in Tokyo, the highest ranking tight end would be Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
Right.
I show here on mine Kittle number 2.
Yes.
Then I think this is where it breaks up. I got number 3, Darren Waller, who, what a season he had last year for the Raiders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a universal. There's 2 tiers right at the top of tight ends. You got Travis Kelce, he's in a tier of his own, and then you have a second tier of Kittle and Waller. You could flip-flop them either way you want, but those are the top 3 everywhere.
I have number 4, Mark Andrews of the Ravens, and I think that's way too high.
Based on ADP right now, Kyle Pitts is number 4. The hype is really high right now for Kyle Pitts.
I have Kyle Pitts circled. And I'm telling you, if I don't get Travis Kelce, which most likely I would take him on my comeback instead of a running back, depending who's there available running back. But my second tight end, I would take a chance on Kyle Pitts for the same reason I talked about with Najee Harris. Kyle Pitts, everybody talks about, might be one of the greatest offensive players coming out of college into a made system with, let's face it, 2 quarterbacks don't get enough accolades. And I do think Matt Ryan's one of them.
Yeah.
I mean, you put Kyle Pitts on that offense, and if I'm correct, they don't have a running game.
They got Mike Davis. Mike Davis is he serviceable?
Okay, I won't argue with you, but I want 2 guys. I might do that. What do I care? Not that I'll win. I've won twice since 1992 by fantasy leagues. I might want Najee Harris and Kyle Pitts on my team. I mean, did you do a dynasty draft this year yet, Tyler? I think you said yes.
Yeah, I've done 6 rookie drafts.
Who's first, Harris or Pitts?
So all my dynasty leagues are Superflex. So the first pick every draft is Trevor Lawrence.
Really?
Yeah, it's a super flex. So you start a quarterback, and then you have a second flex spot that you can put another quarterback in.
I mean,
so you could play 2 quarterbacks. So that's why the quarterbacks go up the board as it's more representative on like real life value. Because like quarterback's the most important position in sports, and so with super flex, it drags the quarterback value up to where they really should be.
Okay, that's interesting. Well, who went first offensively? Who went first, Pitts or Harris?
It was a flip-flop between Harris and Pitts in a bunch of leagues. I think there was one Chase jumped above him. I do like Chase above both of those guys, but yeah, there was a couple leagues Chase jumped up a little bit over him.
You know who we were talking a little bit before about the Lions, and I think Goff's going to be relying on this guy a lot, and that's Hawkinson.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I've got him ranked number 6 as tight ends. I'd probably have him number 4 or number 5 because also Noah Fant on the Broncos. Did the Broncos waste too much time thinking they were going to get Rodgers? Are they going to go into the season with Drew Lock as their quarterback?
It looks like they're going to go into the season with Locke as their number 1 as of now. I do think they wasted too much time with the Aaron Rodgers dream. As much as I would have liked to see Aaron Rodgers not be in the NFC North this season, all indications were that he would be back at some point. It was just when. And yeah, you can't waste your time on a guy like that hoping that something's going to happen down the pipeline. Now you're stuck with Drew Lock, who's not going to be a good quarterback.
Hey, they still got Teddy Two Gloves there. I think Teddy Two Gloves is probably 10 times better than Drew Lock, but I still don't think Teddy Two Gloves is very good.
Teddy Two
When
Gloves.
I look at this, and when Trubisky was available, and you look at the Broncos, and you look at the team, good wide receivers, good tight end, and everything, you have to wonder, is Trubisky just hated that nobody actually tried to put – Trubisky could have been a starter for the Broncos.
I disagree. I think
we Lock ahead of Trubisky?
At this point, yes. I think Mitch Trubisky's confidence is so diminished, and don't get me wrong, the Bears did him no favors. I'm not going to sit on a soapbox and act like they did, but on the other hand, I think you've seen the best of Mitchell Trubisky. The guy can't throw a ball further than 20 yards and be accurate. He cracks under pressure. He can use his legs I guess that's the biggest thing. If a team were to pick him up and let him utilize his rush ability and
Which teams are starting to, like Arizona, like Tyler's Philadelphia with Hurts.
And yeah, I don't like Trubisky, not because he was a Bear. The inaccuracy issues that plagued him his entire tenure in Chicago turned me away from him, especially from a fantasy perspective. You're not going to get a lot out of a quarterback like Trubisky when he was a starter.
You know, don't you love certain guys or gals, if you have gals playing in your fantasy league against you? I have Gronkowski listed as the 15th tight end. Where do you have him, Tyler?
ADP right now, he is going, on average, he's tight end 11 off the board.
Okay. But he could be the second, third, or fourth tight end taken if you have an ignorant player that's just drafting a name instead
name
of
statistical
value. Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
Too many people, there's certain stars that you want, and that's okay. But Gronkowski, it's interesting when you look at it, and we're talking about tight ends. We're talking about Gronkowski, where he came from. Look at the double tight ends on the Patriots. Does it matter? Mm-hmm. They have two quality tight ends. And it's obviously going to have to become the Patriots a dump off to your tight end team. That's why they went out and got him. And when you got Hunter Henry and Johnny Smith, or however you pronounce his first name, they're both two quality tight ends.
I think they're trying to bring back what they had with Aaron Hernandez and Gronk back in the day. They're going to be running a lot of 12 personnel out there. I think they're both viable in the red zone. Well, if Mac Jones is starting, if it's Cam Newton, if it's Cam Newton, he's going to siphon everybody's value, because once they get it down to the red zone, the goal line, he's going to be rushing it in. But if Mac Jones somehow overtakes him, I think both tight ends have middle of the line tight end upside.
And one of those tight ends will be picked up in a supplemental draft. I don't think both tight ends go in a draft.
Let me see here.
I would agree.
I mean, I've got the tight end. My two sleepers. I have two sleepers in my thing. Talking at the tight end, one was Komet, and he's listed at number 17 tight end. But this is an interesting one. Irv Smith is listed at number 12 for the Vikings.
I love Irv Smith. I love Irv Smith this year.
Why?
No more Kyle Rudolph. It over time, it has always taken tight ends longer to progress and get better and more involved in the offense. I think this is now Irv Smith's third year in the NFL. I think he's primed for a breakout. He's a nice red zone target. Last year, when Kyle Rudolph wasn't on the field, Irv Smith was producing. And who's the Vikings head coach? I can't remember the name off the top of my head. Yeah, Mike Zimmer, they've already come out and said they might want to throw the ball a little bit more this year. If they're throwing the ball more, somebody else has got to catch the ball instead of Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson.
That's true. Look at number 8 on my list. Dolphins tight end really came on last year at the end. Gesicki, if that's how you pronounce his name.
Yeah, it's Mike
And
Gesicki.
I have him at the number 8 slot, one slot ahead of Tyler's sleeper tight end, and that's Tanyan of the Green Bay Packers. I think he's going to catapult into the probably the 3rd best tight end in the league.
So right now, based on ADP, Mike Gesicki is the 11.7th tight end off the board, so pretty much 12. He's the 12th tight end off the board.
Well, that's the biggest discrepancy we've had. I have him at 8. Where do you have Tanyan?
Tanyan is 12, or him and Gesicki are pretty much neck and neck.
And where do you have Evan Ingram? Here is a situation. The guy's a quality tight end for the Giants. But this is not. Obviously. But you know what? Remember one thing about a receiver. It depends who's throwing him the ball.
Yeah.
And this will be a make it or break year for Daniel Jones for the Giants. I mean,
absolutely.
I don't think he deserved to go. Well, who was a dumber draft choice at where they went? Daniel Jones to the Giants or Trubisky to the Bears?
Trubisky to the Bears, without question, I would say.
Because they moved up and they took him before some great stars. Were there any stars after Daniel Jones? I mean, Evan Ingram could be a great tight end. And he might still if Daniel Jones, and I've read, it's amazing. Being in New York, and I'm reading nothing about New York. I'm reading very little about Barkley. I'm reading nothing about Daniel Jones. I'm reading nothing about the receivers or Evan Ingram. And I read the Post and New York Times every morning to think if I could get, information about the New York teams. And, I think the first guy who has a Jet on his team is automatically going to be the worst team in fantasy football. I think the Jets are taking a step back with the Zach Wilson. We talk about the Mitchell Trubisky. I think that's the Jets this year with Zach Wilson.
Well, the reports out of New York are Zach Wilson does look solid right now, and you have the fact that.
Did you see his stats from yesterday's scrimmage?
I did not, but
he
you
was
also
like 11 for 24 with 3 interceptions.
Oh, I did not see that one. But you also have the factor that Adam Gase, that freaking guy's gone. That dude's the worst.
I can attest to that.
And the weirdest.
Yeah, he is very weird. He's an awful head coach.
Yes, he is. All right, you want to take one last break, Tarbill, before we all say goodbye and talk about what we're going to think about next year, and hopefully I'll be able to talk next week about my draft. So let's take a break on the World's Best Fantasy Show on the 1252 Sports Network, and we'll be right back.
Real estate is hot right now, and you need an attorney to handle all of this. My guy, Mark Berardi, does this all day long. He's a straight shooter. There's no fancy language. He's just to the point. And he and his team get the deal done. There's no BS. He also does estate planning, trusts, wills, and power of attorney. He has great reviews up and down the board from a ton of happy clients. For him and his big team, they're all just down to earth and normal people as much as he is. You will not be disappointed you went with him. He's located in Homer Glen and New Lenox and handles real estate all over Illinois. There's no place too far, so give him a call today at 708-942-8030. Again, that's 708-942-8030, or look him up online at Mark Berardi and Associates.
Good people there, Berardi. Welcome back to us getting ready to say goodbye. The World's Best Fantasy Show. Right next to me is Tarbill. Right below both of us is Tyler DaMouse. One day he'll tell us about DaMouse. And the other day I saw a rat here. We have mouse and rat traps out here because we live in the mountains, basically. There was a rat that was as big and we have a 50-pound bulldog. And that rat was almost as big as our bulldog. It was unbelievable. So now every time I
Oh my
walk out, I
gosh.
think I'm going to see rats. It gets me crazy. Next week, guys, I think we're going to try to focus on what's soon to replace, because of what the NFL is doing, soon to replace running backs, and that's wideouts. They are becoming the most important thing on the field, along with the quarterback. Those connections. Look at the surprises last year. Is Justin Jefferson in the going to be what he was last year? The surprise. What about their phenomenal rookies? And look at the wide receivers that Joe Burrow has now with T. Higgins and his boy Chase. I mean,
Oh yeah.
and
So,
one of the
still
best
got,
running backs I hear in the NFL. That's Joe Mixon. Somebody
oh
told me
yeah.
they love him. But at the end of the day, that's one hell of an offense. When you
They
talk
still have
about
Tyler
these two
Boyd
wideouts.
too.
Huh?
Tyler Boyd is still there out of the
Yeah.
slot as well.
Yeah. And who's
Yeah.
the tight end? You know, that's interesting. I don't see right now, and I apologize for having to ask, but my God, I'm still going down and looking for the tight end. You mean they don't have a quality tight end with that running?
So their two tight ends on the roster right now are Drew Sample and CJ Uzama.
Who?
Okay.
I'm
Yeah,
kidding.
And here on my tight end list, they list 30 tight ends in what I'm going off of, and not one of them is on the Bengals. That means, where are they on your ADT if they are?
So they're not drafted at all.
So you know what that means? One of those two guys is going to be a pleasant surprise.
Hey, they also have Randy Moss's son, Thaddeus Moss, too. They signed him in the offseason after the football team cut him.
Really?
Yes,
Can
they
you
do.
imagine if he was only a third of what his father was?
Mm-hmm.
Guys,
Oh my
the
gosh.
days of having, I remember one Thanksgiving, my brother-in-law, the family gets together for Thanksgiving, and my brother-in-law and I were playing each other that week. And now I got to sit with my brother-in-law and watch Randy Moss get not one, not two, but 3 long touchdowns against me. And,
Oh my gosh.
there were players, and we might focus on this a little bit closer to the season when we really have over-talked all the preseason and talked about who were the most dynamic players we ever saw in fantasy. I mean, everybody still talks about that phenomenal catch about OBJ. And by the way, I'll have some surprises to talk about next week about OBJ. I think Odell is going to have a star-studded season. I think he's going to be unbelievable.
I like OBJ. But yeah, we were just talking about Randy Moss. The first year I ever did fantasy football was 2007, back when Randy Moss was on the Oakland Raiders.
Well, he was already done with the Vikings.
Yeah, he was on the Raiders. I was like 12 years old. That was the first fantasy league I ever did.
Well, look at the great season he had when he went to New England for 1 year.
Oh,
Him and Brady, what did he have?
Yeah.
20 touchdowns this year?
I think it was like 27 touchdowns or something, and Brady threw 50 that year.
It was unbelievable. Guys, we got another week of studying to go on. Tarbill or Tyler, any good words to say other than goodbye? See you, be well, be healthy. Everybody, most importantly, stay healthy. Don't look at this. I'm not trying to preach, and I definitely don't want it to be politics, but definitely don't want people to be stupid. We all have family out there. We all have kids. We all have, well, not when you're me. You don't have grandparents anymore. You're the grandparent, i.e. me. But don't be stupid. Mask up. Get that stupid shot. It doesn't hurt. And by the way, I know so many people used to always say, I'm not going to get a flu shot because I get sick from it. You know what? You don't get sick from this because there's no
Active virus.
There's
no
nothing
virus.
in it. Yeah. And I mean, if you know anybody that has had it, it ain't fun. And don't make jokes about it.
No, it is not.
Don't make jokes about it. Tyler, you're the man. Tarbill, nobody better. And everybody just have a great week. And next week, we're going to focus on some off-the-wall stuff and definitely wide receivers, which is going to be an interesting draft position for us in this 2021, and maybe some more research on how do we do the IR situation, and maybe we need to extend. Maybe we need to put 5 slots for IR next year, but this season. But we'll wait and see. And remember, Kirk Cousins, our guy. Guys, have a great freaking week. And Fat Mike, be well, my friend.
Absolutely. Take care, guys.
Have a great one, guys.